We're talking chills, thrills, and skills.
Goals of glory.
Potential prowess.
Adequate aptitudes.
That last one's not that impressive.
They're not all going to be winners.
All this and a good deal more after the break. Welcome back, all you beautiful people. We're talking chills, thrills, and skills. As always, I'm Nick. That's Eric. We're the Get Good Guys.
And this is the Get Good Guide. Well, a fine good morning to you.
Good morning to you, sir.
I thank you. It's a little chilly this morning.
Yeah.
A little thrilling this morning.
Oh, I didn't know where you're going with that, but I was like, it's kind of warm actually. So I don't know what you're talking about, but
I needed it to be colder.
I was going to yes
work.
and you.
Oh,
so
I appreciate that.
Out.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
We're talking about skills this morning, as we so often do, but we did a little Googling.
Yeah, we were wondering if there were skills that everyone might want to know, and we did a little Googling. What are the 4 most important skills that anyone should have? And we came up with some very important skills.
Yeah, unsurprising.
Very broad in scope for sure. These are things like communication and interpersonal skills, empathy, problem solving, things of that vein.
Yeah, these are sort of, like you said, very broad. You could probably break any of those down into 12 component skills. And there's kind of no arguing about it.
Yeah, those are wonderful things to possess.
And we won't be talking about any of them.
No, not at all.
We may, sometime down the future, talk about those very general things, but we tend to shy away from the overly broad,
right,
and think in far more specific terms. And so we thought through a few areas, and we thought maybe we would break down some of those areas into potential get good goals or get good skills.
And even just to maybe spur your curiosity or spur your kind of inspiration for something you might want to do or might attach to a skill you're already working on.
Yeah.
Should we do one that's a little bit, like on the lighter side?
Sure.
What if you wanted to be more attractive as a person?
Yeah, as a human being. Maybe not necessarily to people that you wish to be romantically entangled with, but
or
just
could be, right? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? A popular, person that people like being around.
Is there anything now? This could be a little bit biased, of course, depending on point of view.
Sure.
Is there anything that comes to mind to you? You feel like, you know what? If I see someone and they have this, I feel like, oh, that's a very attractive quality.
Yeah. So I'll say this, right? I think that there's kind of a double skill here.
Sure.
That work very closely in tandem, and it's a little bit counterintuitive because sarcasm, sardonic wit, a lot of times people who are funny, who can make you laugh, who can make people laugh, are actually kind of unpleasant to be around, right? Especially if you're around them. So it's one thing to go see a stand-up comedian who has these really cutting commentaries, cutting remarks, very sarcastic, but I don't know that I would want to spend a ton of time with that person.
Yeah, if that was their kind of normal persona.
Right, right. And I think that working negative, as it's called, is a bit of a shortcut sometimes to being really funny. And some of the more brilliant professional comedians or people who are interesting to be around, they're just relentlessly positive, right, about other people. You hear them using stock phrases. They're authentically interested in celebrating the people they're around.
One of the names that comes to mind in this realm is like Keanu Reeves, where he. Everyone who talks about him, I've never met him, but everyone who talks about him, all his interviews and everything are so sincere and so positive that he kind of is like this treasure to people. But in a way that's kind of like almost not human.
Right.
It doesn't feel like approachable in a way where you'd be like, oh, that's a normal person. He's kind of so far afield from that, which is interesting, which is very interesting.
I think authentically wanting to know about others, right? It's one thing because you could learn the skills of saying like, oh, here are some pleasantries, or here are some questions. People like to talk about themselves, so ask them questions about themselves. But authentically, if you truly do, I was had dinner with a acquaintance yesterday.
Sure.
And this is a guy who just authentically wants to know about what's going on in your life and wants to hear, and he's so sincere.
Yeah.
So that sincerity and that authentic desire to understand you is a very attractive trait.
Yeah. Well, and the last thing maybe I'll say about this before we move on to our next one is it might be interesting to think about kind of what different skills might do along the path. So for like first meeting people, kind of being perceived as kind of attractive or wanting to be around, those skills might kind of shift over time, like the comedian, right? Where if you meet that comedian for 10 minutes and it's like super enjoyable and it's super funny, that might be very, very cool and fun to hang out with. But like 3 months of it might not be.
Right.
So those things might shift over time, and you might want to apply different skills as you go.
Well, and there's even a personality profile called the hit and run artist, which is like a person who everyone agrees is great, is a lovely, like a wonderful, hilarious, fun person, but no one really spends time with them because they have learned, I'm great for 15 minutes.
Sure.
And then after that, I get uncomfortable, or the people I'm around sort of, they aren't as enamored because maybe the things that I was doing to be great, they don't last.
Interesting.
Right? Or they don't carry, they don't travel.
Yeah. This kind of like parlays a little bit into maybe the last one we'll talk about on the main feed, which is increasing your own market value.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, right? We live in the United States in a market economy, in a capitalist economy. And so as a professional, you have sort of a market value. Right, or your skills have a market value, and so there is always this question: how do you increase that? Right, how do you become more valuable to potential employers or potential business partners or clients if you are, an entrepreneur? Yeah,
and this is one that everyone, whether they're thinking about it consciously or not, is concerned about.
Right,
because who doesn't want to be more valuable to their workplace or their job or their, what value they can kind of accrue through this.
Right. Yeah, and there's a few different ways to handle this, generally speaking, from an economic sort of theory. One is to increase the set of skills that already makes you marketable. Right. So you can further yourself down the line. Now, we know the thesis of the Get Good Guide, which is that's a very costly way of doing that.
Yeah.
Right. That's very costly. A less costly and potentially more efficient way is to increase the constellation, and we did an entire episode on this, but to increase the constellation of skills around your professional skill set, so that you, when compared to a person of equal skill in your profession, you sort of stand out.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this feels like a new idea, I think, to a lot of people, but there are a couple of traditional, I'll use the word traditional, kind of examples of this where people would say, like, just don't leave until the boss leaves.
Sure.
Where it's like that has nothing to do with your work, but they see you there until they must be working hard. They must be working hard, that, or show up early.
Sure.
These are things that, like, very traditionally people might give as job advice that really have nothing to do with the job, but have to do with like a surrounding set of skills, which would be being accountable or being
Yeah. Another way to, and this is kind of counterintuitive, to increase one's market value, you can try to be markedly better, at a skill set, but you can also be markedly different.
Sure.
And the example I'll give is, let's say, and I'm only thinking of this because I recently had an experience with it. Let's say you're an anesthesiologist.
Okay.
Right. And they all work in hospitals, by and large, except for the ones that travel. And that's a very different set of skills, and the services that you provide are ostensibly still anesthesiology, but you're traveling, and so you provide an avenue for people to access those skills in a way that didn't exist before. An easier example maybe is, let's say you're a business owner, you have different hours, right?
Sure.
Where you say, oh, hey, look, we're an oil change place, but we open at 3 p.m. And we're open till midnight.
We don't close till 11. That's interesting,
right? And so this idea of like, there's a whole swath of the population that it would be a real inconvenience to try to go get their oil changed during normal business hours. But you've changed nothing about, you're just changing
what
oil.
You do, right?
Right. You haven't increased your ability at all. You've just made your market different. And there's that's kind of like almost automatic. Now it takes some doing.
Sure.
Right, but it is, something that changes or increases your marketability.
Maybe we should add that to our group of businesses we're going to open up, because it sounds like not a bad idea.
I'll tell you. And we've talked about, my father and my sister are both dentists.
Yeah.
And my father used to work Saturdays. And that was it. I mean, Obviously, right? It was so obvious in hindsight.
Well, and, on top of that, that's, however 20, 30, 40 years ago when that was even less common.
Right. Absolutely. Well, my friends, we are well over time. So, Audrey, get the cutting room floor ready.
What have you let us do?
Get the cutting room floor ready. But we will continue on the Patreon. We may continue along the same veins, and we have a couple more items on the list to talk about. But we will see all of you in the outro. Well, gee, thanks, everybody. Sure do appreciate you for taking the time learning about these chills, thrills, and skills. We will be talking about a few more over on the Patreon, patreon.com/getgoodguide. You can also find a transcript of the main feed episode, or you can jump into the membership area and get access to those bonus content materials over at the center of the Get Good Galaxy, getgood.guide. As always, I'm Eric. That's Nick. We're the Get Good Guys.
And this is the Get Good Guide. What happened?
Take one. I don't remember the title. All right, wait.
Are we going to say the title?
You're going to...
Or we just say chills, thrills?
We're talking, right? We're talking chills, thrills, and
skills of import.
Well, then you just say skills twice.
Okay, so wait. We're talking chills, thrills, and skills.
Yeah, I've entitled the save file chills, thrills, and skills.
Oh, I like it.